Hey folks, hope you're having a great day. Today I've got a story for you that's equal parts hilarious and frustrating. It's about entitled people, a bit of trespassing, and the battle to protect my backyard. So how would you feel if your HOA sent you violation photos, but these photos could only have been taken 15 feet inside your yard? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. When I asked how they got the pictures, the HOA president basically told me to stop asking. That's when I stopped arguing and started recording. We moved into our home about 3 years ago, and the property setup is a little different from what you might expect. Our house is set way back from the road with this winding gravel driveway cutting through trees and leading to the main road. The previous owners had planted massive hedges all around the lot, so you can't really see the house unless you're right at the front gate. It felt like we had our own private little world, exactly what we wanted. The house came with about an acre of land, most of it behind the house, completely out of sight from the street. Our backyard has trees everywhere, thick bushes along the fence line, and a neglected area we've been working to fix up for the past few years. My day job is in IT, but photography is my hobby. I've got an eye for angles, lighting, and all that technical stuff. My wife always jokes that I can spot a photoshopped image from a mile away. She's probably right. It's a fun little skill, but it'll become important later. Now, the HOA in our suburban neighborhood is what you'd call typical. Monthly dues are $150. There are rules about lawn height, paint colors, and all the usual stuff. The board has 5 members, but really it's run by one woman, the president. She's been in charge for about 6 years, and from what I've heard from the neighbors, she takes her job very seriously. Maybe too seriously. I've always been a model homeowner. Pay my dues on time, keep my grass cut, no violations ever. My wife and I are pretty quiet people, wave to the neighbors, but we mostly keep to ourselves. We follow the rules, avoid drama, and just want to enjoy our slice of paradise. So imagine my shock when I came home one Tuesday morning and found a letter from the HOA on my front door. It was official and my stomach dropped immediately. At first I thought it was just a notice about a board meeting or a community cleanup event, but I opened it to find a formal cease and desist notice. Apparently I had some unauthorized structure and non-approved landscaping in my backyard. I was ordered to remove a small storage shed and replant my vegetable garden. And get this, attached to the notice were 3 high-resolution photos showing both the shed and garden from different angles. I stared at those photos for a good 5 minutes. Something didn't feel right. See, I'm a photographer. I understand perspective, focal length, positioning. These photos were taken with a DSLR, and the angles were all wrong. The shed is tucked into the back corner of our yard, about 200 feet from the street, and hidden by trees and hedges. To get a good shot of it, you'd have to be on our property. There's no public vantage point that could have captured those shots. Same goes for the garden. One of the photos showed the garden from the south, which could only have been taken from inside my yard about 15 feet from the back fence. There's no way someone could have captured these angles from outside my property. I spent that morning walking the perimeter of my land, trying to figure out where these photos could have been taken from. And that's when I noticed something else: footprints in the mulch. They weren't from us. We hadn't been in that corner of the yard recently. And then tucked under some leaves, I found a black lens cap. I picked it up and examined it. It was for a Canon DSLR. That was the moment I realized someone had been on our property without permission, taking photos of our backyard. Instead of calling the HOA immediately and confronting them, I decided to take a more measured approach. My dad always told me that before assuming the worst, give people a chance to explain themselves. So I wrote a polite email to the HOA management company. I explained that I'd received their violation notice and attached photos, but I was confused about how the evidence was obtained. I asked them to confirm who took the photos and from which public area. The email was calm, friendly, but I also wanted answers. The next morning I got a response, but not what I expected. The HOA president herself replied, and her tone was dismissive. She basically said that how they got the photos didn't matter and that I needed to focus on correcting the violations, not questioning their methods. The email reminded me that the HOA's rules existed to protect property values and that I had 10 days to comply before fines started. She didn't answer my question about the photos. That's when I knew something was off. That evening I told my wife everything. We both walked out to the backyard and I showed her the angles in the photos. She immediately saw what I meant. We decided to check our home security footage. The problem, we don't have cameras in the backyard since we never thought we'd need them. But my wife had a brilliant idea. We walked around and checked the yard for any signs someone had been back there. And that's when we found the footprints in the mulch. Now I knew this wasn't just about a violation notice anymore. Someone had been on our property. I could have called the HOA, but I decided to get evidence first. I set up trail cameras around the backyard right where I knew the photos had been taken from. A few days later, I caught her, the HOA president herself, trespassing in our backyard with a professional camera, taking photos of the herb garden and even moving our potted plants to get better angles. Not only was she trespassing, but she was also physically moving things on our property. I wasn't going to let this slide. I filed a police report and then I set my trap. When I received a new violation notice for the herb garden, which was completely legal, I decided it was time for action. I presented my evidence at the next HOA board meeting, everything from the trail camera footage to the police report to the HOA's own governing documents that clearly stated they couldn't collect evidence this way. The room went silent as I presented the evidence. I even showed them the video of the president trespassing. The president tried to defend herself, but the board members were already uncomfortable. The truth was out. She had violated the HOA's own rules, and everyone in the room knew it. I proposed a resolution: drop all violations, install a privacy fence at the HOA's expense, and ensure no one trespassed on private property again. I also asked for her resignation. To my surprise, the board agreed to everything. They dropped the violation charges, installed the fence, and the president resigned. But it didn't end there. I later discovered that this wasn't the first time the president had gone too far. Several neighbors reported similar suspicious activity around their homes. The whole ordeal taught me a lot. It wasn't just about standing up for myself, it was about standing up for what was right. Sometimes people in positions of power think they can do whatever they want. But when they overstep, it's important to know your rights, document everything, and be ready to fight for them. Now we have our privacy back, our garden is thriving, and I've learned to always question things when they don't feel right. The lesson here: sometimes you need to stand up to the bullies who think they can push you around. If they're trespassing on your land, you've got every right to make sure they pay for it. So what would you do if you found yourself in a similar situation? Have you ever had to deal with a violation notice or a homeowners association pushing too far? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Until next time, keep standing up for your rights and take care.